Welcome to a brand new episode of Level Up with the Expert Circle. Here we illuminate the personal and professional growth of our experts that we come in contact with on a daily basis. I'm your host, Deb Dattar, founder and CEO of Kriya, a Y Combinator and venture-backed AI tech startup empowering industry leaders to build their personal brands. In my journey as a CEO, I've been privileged to work alongside some of the most innovative minds in the industry. And at Kriya, we've transformed the way leaders cultivate their personal brands, making it swift, seamless, and impactful to seek out opportunities that will further their growth, be it public speaking, be it job opportunities, award nominations, or their own business objectives, such as coaching and consulting. But beyond the technology and strategies, I believe in the power of stories and experiences. And that's why I'm here today to bring you conversations that matter. Because at the end of the day, it's not about building a brand, it's about nurturing the person behind it. So, our guest today embodies the spirit of creativity, strategic leadership. Please welcome Gilli Alioti, an entrepreneur, a term she coined into a leadership initiative. She's an Australian dynamo. She has been a creative artist, author, community builder, and a strategic business leader for over 25 years. Her journey spans Fortune 500 companies and startups across entertainment, technology, and media. As a master business executive coach and life coach, Jilly has dedicated her career to empowering creatives and leaders, guiding them towards achieving their life passion and business goals. Hi, Jilly.
Hi, Deb. Thanks for having me.
So wonderful to have you here. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I'd love if you could, in your own words, give us a brief introduction to yourself.
Thanks. Yes, I mean, you said some great things there. I really am a multi-entrepreneur with HER. I never thought I would be this person, but I am. I'm very creative. I am an artist. I'm a songwriter. I'm also a technology leader. I have led multiple teams to build amazing products, including being involved in Paramount Plus and Google Maps and startups building amazing products, including with will.i.am. I've toured the world, and I also love coaching and mentoring others to be passion leaders themselves with my organization called The Creative. And I ultimately am a life passion seeker. I look for projects that can uplift not just me creatively, but also others. I really love to help others. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for being here, Jilly. So just diving right into it, right?
Mhm.
A big part of everything that folks are focused on today is cultivating their own personal brands. Ultimately, opportunities come depending on how powerful and strong your personal brand is.
Mhm.
So could you describe sort of your approach to, evolving your own unique personal brand, especially across varied fields such as entertainment, technology, and media?
Yes, it's really a hot topic even in my own household because some days I have to think about which brand do I want to expose. Um, it's been a journey, let me say. Branding to me is about really telling a narrative on what you want the world to know about you. And through my years of doing multiple things and trying things on, I really have come to a place where I'm bringing it all together. And that is so unique. And it's life changing for me because for many years I was compartmentalizing my brands. And I'll give you an example and then I'll tell you how I do it today. So for many years, I was an artist as Jilly Moon, and you could see, I'm on Spotify, I've toured the world, and I kept it very separate. She's this artist, she performs, she writes, she does all that, right? And also, I was a coach at the time and writing books for artists and songwriters. And at the same time, I was living a parallel life, and it's all going to come to a head pretty quickly, of being me, Gilli Alioti, in technology and media, rising in the ranks of corporations and leading teams, building great products. And I was very strong. I've always been good at marketing myself, I guess. So always lent on LinkedIn, always lent on a good resume, always lent on a good website, calling cards, networking. But it got to a point where I was like, well, which calling card do I pull out at what time? In this new day, uh, post pandemic, total internet, global, with me being more mature and seasoned with what I do, I realized that I am all of it. And so what I do now is, yes, I'm Gilli Alioti. Yes, I have the artistry behind me. I really do lean on a couple of key things. One is my seasoned leadership, uh, being in all of these companies and love doing that. LinkedIn is a big thing for me. Joining networks like Queer to be part of leaders around me has been very important to me. And also helping others to cultivate their branding as well, whether I coach or mentor, or I do workshops or fun things or blogs and podcasts, is it's all about bringing my brand together of who Jilly is. At the end of the day, I am staying very focused to my authenticity, like really sharing my true selves, whether it's here today with you all or whether I write it on a site. I have stopped compartmentalizing. But what I have done is I'm learning to step up my game on how I vocalize my narrative. So when I talk about my positions in leadership, my companies, when I talk about my industry experience, even in the music industry, it is about being a leader. And that is what ultimately is my sweet spot. And being a female entrepreneur and leader also has its challenges. So I'm very much advocating for inclusive workplaces. And so I really use that in my brand as being a female leader as well. I hope that is good. There's a lot there though.
No, it's incredible because some of the questions I was going to ask, and you covered it so beautifully, was, what are the strategies, right? Because there are strategic actions you take, and then
Hmm.
there are just hardcore like marketing actions, because these go hand in hand, like the networking, associating yourself with the right connections, so you are in the right circles, you're attracting the right type of influence. And then there's just like the key deliverables, such as the right website, the right
Hmm.
you know channels that you're producing content on, and so on. So these are some of the things that I think people don't necessarily understand is a lot of work. It's a lot of strategic thinking and applying hours of your time to make sure that it is cultivating the image that you want. It's branding essentially, right? So, and really, thank you for sharing that. I think personally for me, there's a lot of folks. Sorry, um, there's a lot of folks that we encounter who are kind of mid-career,
Hmm.
and they're seeking, how do I make that, when is the right time? Like a lot of times I'll speak to women and they're like, oh, I don't have a personal brand, or I don't think I people will want to talk to me. And I'm like, you've been in the industry for 8 years, you do this from 9 to 5, if not longer. Who better to talk about you than yourself and the things that you do? So can you talk a little bit about sort of, what would be your advice, I would say, for folks
Yeah.
aspiring to become
Yeah.
thought leaders but don't know how to go about it?
Yes, it's a great question. So I also meet many folks in this area and want to support them on building their brand. It's something that I do because I've learned along the way how to do this. It's really about there's two things. There's the first thing is stepping into that zone. So really knowing that you are that person you want to be. So it's getting really clear with who that person is that you want to be. Um, you may, let's just say you might be in a job where you feel like you're not rising up the ranks, you don't know how to speak up, you don't know if how you can be that leader, thought leader, whatever next level it is. And that there can be many reasons why. Also for women, it can be hard too in the workplace, and there's a whole myriad of things, the imposter syndrome, and not being able to get ahead for many different factors. But for anybody, it's about really working on yourself and look, doing that inner work. So that's the first step. And I'd love to share my formula for that. But before I do, the second step is once you feel like you know what you want and you know what you'd like to be, it's how to put it out there. So it's about framing who you want to be as if it is. So it's more like an endowment of future success. And then using all those mechanisms that we started to talk about, whether it's a LinkedIn website, resume, to start sharing the narrative. So I have this formula that I want to share. It is very simple. I believe that when we want to build our brand, it starts with the talent. So getting clear with what that is, like what are you really good at and how you feel you can offer something to the world, plus your message, how you message it, which includes your why do you do it and your how. So I'll give you an example. I have a few clients that I work with that are looking to transition from here to here, but they don't feel like they can go from here to here. So this is the inner work. So this, what is our real talent? Are we really good collaborators? Are we really good communicators? Are we really good at leading teams? Are we really good at data? Are we really good at product management? Whatever that is. Are we really good at singing? I don't know. And getting clear with that. Then writing that down, getting really clear with writing it down, and then learning to message that. So you kind of almost have to lie to yourself in order to step into that. And that practice takes time. I'll pause there because it's the inner work that I really wanted to share.
This is really, I mean, this is so important. I love that we spoke earlier about sort of strategies, but there is so
Mhm.
much of this that comes from within, which is where you start. Could you allude a little bit more to, isn't this kind of part of the, what you do with the creative and the like your business? Could you
Mhm.
talk a little bit more about that? Like what led you into that and what is sort of the objective?
Sure. Yeah, the creative is a platform for entrepreneurs and creatives and career chasers who want to become passion leaders. I had a need for writing this year, the 2023. I really wanted to do a lot of writing and had a lot to think about in my own career transition. And so I started doing, I don't know, probably 100 blog posts. And then I started building a podcast for entrepreneurs and a lot of video content. It's also a platform and community for folks to step up their game with their brand and to really start to become who they want to be. I believe that you can have anything you want in this world. You just can't have it all at the same time. So it's building out that game plan on where you want to go and how you want to achieve it. And also you can dream as big as you want to. Like don't let anyone tell you you cannot dream big. But you need to have a game plan behind that. So the creative is really a platform for those who really want to step up their game and be inspired and dream big. And so we do this through the community, through either the content that I provide or the community, the events, the workshops, the gatherings, um, in order to get there. And one of the biggest things that I've noticed in it is even as I was moving through my kind of bringing my brands together this year, I noticed that everyone else that I was coming across was trying to figure it out as well. And so I've been wanting to supply them opportunity to get clearer and clearer with their brand and their narrative around who they are, who they want to be, and what they want, and getting clear on that, and then being able to share that to the world.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Jilly, for sharing that. And I think as you're talking about the formula, starting with the mindset, the inner work, I think there's a lot of valuable resources that you have on the creative that I'm sure people can find useful as they're in this journey. I have one thing that I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into over here. So, for a lot of folks who've started this journey to thought leadership, right? There's a tendency to follow what others are doing rather than focusing on cultivating your unique voice and your perspective that sets you apart. And it's often hard to do because sometimes you don't know are you doing this to for yourself? Are you really doing it for, the world, the way the world should look at you? How would you recommend people, or what's your
Mhm.
advice for folks to not get carried away with, mimicking someone else's brand, even though they're not doing it consciously, but actually find a way to focus on cultivating their unique voice?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think that we get caught up with having to keep up with the Joneses, whether you're looking for a new career or you're getting out there as a speaker or a coach or you're starting a platform. I mean, just side note, I mean, how many AI startups do we have right now? Like everyone's like on the bandwagon, right? For some reason, because I'm also a coach, I keep getting all of these ads on Facebook and Instagram on like, you can be the best coach, you can make all this money. And they just keep doing the same thing, right? It's like, what are they selling me? They're just selling, I think really it's all about authenticity and being yourself. Whatever you do, you want to really come through as who you are and show up as your authentic self. For me, I've never stopped being who I am. I was just compartmentalizing it. I would do something over here versus something over here. So I think as we do our things, we want to be more and more authentic, more and more holistic with who we are, whether that's posting on LinkedIn or social, or whether it's doing video content or it's writing a blog that's not AI generated, or it's showing up to a network. You want to be your true self. I've hired many people. I'd say over 100 people I've personally hired in corporations. So I've seen the gamut of people showing up authentically or not. And ultimately, we need to follow our true heart, like our passion, like what we believe in, what's good for us. Don't just do something because it's popular or trendy. And also try and find your niche. So part of my branding formula, which is your talent, means what is unique about you that someone else doesn't have? What is that ingredient that makes you different? That's your differentiator or your competitive edge. And really nurture that piece, because that's what makes you unique and different, and why people will fall in love with you. So yeah, authenticity and uniqueness.
Super helpful. And I think this is really important for folks to remember, because I've seen, like, I mean, content has become, um, almost everyone's producing content now, thanks to AI and Chat GPT and so on. So it's hard to, like, when you show up on LinkedIn, it's almost hard to tell who do I follow. A lot of it is good content, not, don't get me wrong, but then I'm almost not seeing who the person is, because there's a lot of, everyone's writing about AI, or everyone's writing about product management, or everyone's writing about um, you know, macroeconomic issues and so on, right? So, but
Yeah.
like you said, niching down is so crucial, because you don't have to sell to an audience of 1 million. You don't need to sell to the audience of one or two, and then build your community from there. So we actually have some folks who, they're a security engineer at Google, and they want to essentially find a way to build a community of security. And I'm like, that's fantastic. Start talking about being a woman as a security engineer in such a unique space that has very, very few female talent. So it's a beautiful like opportunity to talk about niching down and like cultivating that brand, because that's really what makes you unique. Thank you for sharing that. I have a related question. I've been in a place where you have been, and I still am. And part of my, as we're concluding this year, my realization has been, I think I've not done a very good job of separating my personal brand from my
Mm,
business brand. And things that make me happy, things that make the human happy, are simple things like, oh, like maybe walking, taking a walk with my puppies on the beach, and
mhm.
feeling comfortable to talk about that, or talking about recording music with my husband and feeling comfortable to talk about that on the same channels that people also see me as the CEO of this company.
Yeah.
So I would love your advice on this, is like, how do you balance that professional versus personal aspects? Because they're all part of your personal brand at the end of the day. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I don't think I've solved the nugget, but I can share with you how I see it and what I do. Um, you see, I had the problem of ultra compartmentalization. So for me, I'm actually trying to bring it all together. So the first thing is, and this is something, starting the creative this year was interesting to me because I was like, what is the creative? The creative really is me. It's my platform to share what I think as a thought leader and hopefully resonate and inspire others, right? So a lot of my blogs are actually very personal. I'm talking, like I talked about the passing of my mother this year, and then what I've learned from that. I've talked about, you know, losing opportunities and then how you resolve and get over that. So the more I bring my personal into it, the more people want to be part of it. So there's one, there's that. I think, one of the things, and I'll just switch to you for a sec. One of the things I love about Kriya is you, Deb. It's like you're the heartbeat. And it's not to say that you can't have distance, but it's your passion that makes us passionate to be involved, right? That's what I mean by that. I have a nonprofit songwriters organization called Songs Alive that I've been shepherding and presiding over for 26 years. And
Mm.
I keep thinking, well, there's going to be a whole other team that's going to run Songs Alive one day. But at the end of the day, even though it is a community driven, nonprofit, board driven organization, I'm the heartbeat. And so I realize like it would change if I'm not there. So I think that's the thing. From the social media point of view, some I have separated like my Instagram. I have the creative, and by the way, it's with an 8. I'm sure you're going to write it. It's all written differently. The creative Insta, the creative Facebook, the creative YouTube, and then I've got my Jilly Moon Insta, uh, Jilly Moon Facebook. Twitter is just officially Jilly because it's my first experiment to bring it together. And the point being is you kind of start to think, where do you want to blend it, where you don't. Like LinkedIn is all Gilli Alioti. I don't post my music there. I may, if someone's joined my podcast where I'll interview them about their entrepreneurship and then we'll play one of my songs, but it's very subtle, right? So there's time and place to separate, and there's a time and place to bring it all together. I was on stage in Miami speaking about stepping into your leadership zone as a woman in technology. And I shared my whole story of being an artist, moving to technology. This is who I was. This is who I am today. This is me all. And it's because of the entire brand bringing it together that's so powerful and inspiring for others to go, she did that. So it's like choosing when you want to bring that out and when it's just not relevant. But I will always go back to that same thing I just said: true self, authenticity, and your uniqueness is what is so cool.
That's one. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for also like sharing, it gives me a little bit of a boost because it is something that I am consciously planning to make a change going into 2024 is embracing that a little bit more. And as an entrepreneur, you also evolve as you are in this journey because when I started out, a lot of this was just my personal passion, just doing it because I wanted to do it. So I didn't even hold back in the way I would show up. I would just be exactly who I wanted to be. And then as the company evolves, it's not about you anymore. It is about
Right.
so many more people that make it what it is. And then you think that you should probably distance you as the brand versus the company as the brand. And then you realize, where are you then?
That's right.
Sometimes I feel lost because that is kind of where I draw my energy from. So one is, it's really helpful to know that one is I'm not alone, and I think it is about consciously remembering to stay authentic, as whichever way that may be, right? That's really helpful. I'm going to ask you one question that is going to um I would love your perspective on this. So role of AI,
Mm.
because I think we're all in the world where AI has a role to play. Um, so in your experience, sort
Mhm.
of with your personal objectives, right? Like how do you feel AI is influencing the way you walk? And what are the places you also think that AI should, is showing up, but you almost don't want it because it takes away from who you are?
Yep. Yep. Look, I was one of the first people that I know in my network and circle that was on the internet. Like, have embraced technology uh, fast. Like, I love new things. I'm a geek at heart. So when there's like a new platform, new thing, new toy, I'm there to try it out. Um, so I love AI for that. In fact, I was involved in a startup where we were very ahead of its curve with AI before Amazon Home came out, before Google brought out their AI. We were doing AI for home and consumer apps, and it was so exciting to be doing something ahead of its time. Um, I think that there's a lot of chatter out there about AI, because it's the next big thing. Everyone wants to be on the bandwagon, and that's an ROI thing. That's let's make money from the next big thing, right? And we should. Um, I'm also a content creator, so apart from building operations and startups and companies, I'm a content creator. So if AI can help me do what I do, I'm going to do it. Whether it's writing a song, whether it's creating a video, whether it's writing a blog, if it's going to help reduce the time for me to do something, but still I can keep my authentic voice and my copyright, which is a whole different ball game, by the way, in content. Like, who owns what now is like a whole problem. But putting that aside just for a minute, if it can help me be me, I would absolutely use it. If it can help companies be more efficient, which is what I do in my day job, let's bring it on. Does it take away from human interaction? Not really. You need a lot of humans behind AI. And so I think we can't deny it. We need to embrace it, but we do need to set some governance and rules around it so that, because then you're starting, to steal content or steal trademark or steal or IP. And I think we just have to kind of do it the right way, which means we might have to slow it down a bit to make sure we do it right. I'm a little bit like that. I'm a planner. Let's do this right so that we can really do it great. I love it. I use it. I use Chat GPT. I use Bard since I'm ex Google. Of course, I'm going to use Bard. And I try and see which one's better. But I don't let it overrule my creativity, because my creativity is, I'm a writer, right? So I'm not going to like make it right for me. But I do get a lot of ideas, especially the Gen AI. So I'm all for it. But I don't want it to replace human interaction.
I think that's super helpful. And I think it's also about recognizing how to apply AI and not take away from, who you are. And I want to call this out because I'm a content creator too. I mean, creating a podcast is creating content.
Yeah.
Now, it's not my skill set to produce videos. It's not also my skill set to, or even the best use of my time to be able to go and find out segments that I want to use for marketing purposes and so on. And I discovered in just the space of podcasting, there are AI tools that can go through your transcript and pull out,
Yep.
elements. And then obviously there's the human that needs to say that, no, they literally cut off the punchline because they didn't get it. The AI didn't get it.
It's not that
But
smart. They say it's
right.
smart.
It's right. But I mean, the whole thing is like that work that I would either have to go hire someone else to do. Now I can actually tell my content girl, or I can do it myself and say, here are the 5 pieces of video that AI pulled out for us as like the parts where, Jilly has spoken at length, which means there is a significant discussion going on at this point. Let's pull that out and just, crop it up into like what is a reasonable segment. And that just shrunk my work down from
Yeah.
hours. So now, is AI going to be able to do the podcast for us? Is AI going to be the avatar that's conducting this interview?
Yeah.
I just don't know. Like, and there's all this dialogue about that. And I just don't know if that is necessarily the best place for us as creatives and as people with personal brands see that as an objective. So Very helpful, and thanks you for sharing that. I know we're getting up on time, so I want to ask you one final closing thought.
Okay.
So this is to yourself 10 years ago. If there was one piece of timeless advice you'd like to share with yourself 10 years ago, what would that be?
Yeah. 10 years ago is a great decade because that's the year my twins were born. So I was becoming a mother, very daunting time, and I was I was pivoting too to really full throttle go into technology, um, from being in the entertainment business. Um, I would tell myself of 10 years ago to not be afraid, to don't hold back, and continue to show up with your full authentic self. Because what I learned more recently is there was nothing to hide back then about my roots and how I came up in the ranks. It's actually getting celebrated now. And so I would say live without fear and be completely authentic with who you are. And also, and I did this to my 10-year-old self, but I want to say it to everyone here. About 10 years ago, I had this revelation. It was maybe 12 years ago. I said to myself, I saw this woman who was driving on this road. I was going out to dinner with my husband, and I saw this woman. She must have been 23 or something. Pull up in this Mercedes at the light, and I'd say this is more like 15 years ago. But let me tell the story. Um, and I was like still struggling. I was like making money. I was kind of on the verge of up in ranks. I was doing a few things. And I looked at this woman and I said to my husband, I want that. And then I said, I can have that. And I literally pivoted my mindset to say, I can earn the money I want to earn. I can have the level I want to have. I can have the car that I can want to have drive, which is a symbol of all of that. I no longer need to struggle. I can lead, I can shine, I can prosper, I can thrive. And I've never looked back. And that was the mindset shift. So more of that to our younger selves. Don't be afraid. Live your true self.
That's fantastic and such a wonderful note to end on. So, guys, thank you. And I mean, this brings us to the end of another enriching conversation. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our guest, Jilly, for sharing
Thank
your
you.
invaluable insights and experiences with us. So, your journey and wisdom has not only enlightened us, but also inspired so many more to think differently about personal branding and its impact. So, to our listeners, thank you for tuning in and being part of this journey. Now, remember, your personal brand is a reflection of who you are and the value you bring into the world. It's your story, it's your legacy. So, keep nurturing it with insights and lessons you've gathered from today's episode. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and other social channels to stay updated on all of our upcoming episodes. And so, until then, keep cultivating your personal brand, keep growing, and most importantly, keep inspiring. Goodbye and take care.